when Alan and Christian and Jimmy and Gunnar and everybody that was involved in making this happen, when they were going around asking questions of who you would want to hear from and who should be a part of this conversation, and this dream was taking shape, what ended up happening out of those conversations is all the people that I'm the biggest fan of and hope to hear from, they ended up participating in this thing, and they ended up being up here on this platform together. And this kind of work can be so lonely. And if you've done any of this kind of missional work, you know that. And so when anything they asked, basically, when I saw this starting to come together, I was like, sure, yeah, I'll do that. If you're pulling this conversation together, I'll do whatever you want me to do so that I can be here. So can we thank them one more time for putting together Missional Voices? And thanks to all of you for being a part of this conversation. I'm really excited about this because I feel like this is almost like the culmination of this whole weekend, being able to talk about grassroots, on-the-ground stuff. So we've had the chance to see a video about Bob's work, and we've heard from Katie, but maybe if we could just quickly go around and have you introduce yourselves. Daniel, would you mind? And we'll just tell us who you are and what you're up to. Why are you on this stage?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Daniel Velez Rivera, and I'm the vicar of St. Gabriel's San Gabriel Episcopal Church in Leesburg, Virginia. And before I start, I'd like to do a shout out for all the Latinos in the house. Shout out. And I did that because we are here, we are part of the Episcopal Church, and we are almost elbowing our way in. The church isn't always that invitational to others, and that is why I'm a missionary priest. And so St. Gabriel's is a church plant that worships in a school building every Sunday, a very expensive school building, $25,000 for 3 hours of rental 1 day a week. Our Spanish language service started about a year ago in a community center, and that was free because the school wanted to, it would have been another $12,000 to $15,000 to tack on 2 more hours of service. So our Spanish language service did not succeed in the community center because it was inaccessible to the people. But it was free, so we started it. My motto is, just do it. And so we did it, and today we're worshiping in a established Episcopal church in the center of town, and the Hispanic ministry has really blossomed because it is accessible. So you're hearing that word accessibility a lot. We need to help Jesus be more accessible to the people, and we've heard that with Katie, and you'll hear that with others. I'm proud and honored to be here and to be a missionary in the Episcopal Church.
And I'm Bob Leopold, and I look a little different than the video.
Did you lose your razor?
I love, a buddy of mine is a prestidigitator, right? He does magic tricks. And I kind of view my hair and beard as that, right? If I can get people talking about my hair and beard, it's like the magician focus on this hand while this hand does the trick. So, ladies,
that's good.
My eyes are up here, okay? There we go. And gentlemen, yes, of course, that's right. Well, you saw my video. I feel like our video, I feel like you got a good idea of what Southside AV is, but that's where I serve. But they didn't give me one of these microphones because they knew I would have. Right. I'm excited to hear what these guys have to say, and ladies, yeah.
Is that what we're offering? Change your hair, keep them,
Yeah, that's right.
guessing, not know what's
That's
going on. I'm Sarah Schistler-Goff. I am one of the co-founders and co-pastors of the Slate Project, which is an alternative Christian community rooted in the ancient and the arts. We meet both online. We do a lot of work online building community, and we actually have a face-to-face community in Baltimore that in reality, a version of reality, is a Lutheran mission development. But in practice, from the beginning, we have been a ecumenical, post-denominational, alternative worshiping community. But because certain structures don't really know what to do with that, we, depending on who we're talking to, we say we are a Lutheran mission or a tri-denominational partnership or an ecumenical whatever. And that, has its positives and negatives, which it means it keeps us trying to figure out who we are. And it's kind of hard to get rooted in who we are if we're always trying to be figuring that out. So I'm really happy to be here with all of you guys.
You heard a lot from me, but I'm Katie Nakamura-Ringers.
I'm Glenna Huber. I'm in the Diocese of Maryland. I have been in Maryland for about 6 or 7 years, and I was serving in two West Side congregations. The West Side of Baltimore has suffered years of divestment, as have those churches, and I was serving in those communities. The priorities in our diocese financially, I would say, shifted, which meant that my compensation shifted. So now, I have left the parish work, but I am still very active in urban development, urban congregational development using community organizing universals. Because I think the people will come if the church is invested in the communities in which they're located. So I'm helping congregations, helping people be in relationship with not just each other, but the people on the other side of the doors. And yes, people need to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Katie, there was so much in what you presented to us earlier, and even some themes have been hit on already in this conversation, and some of us had a chance to talk on the phone last week. Let's just jump into this whole thing about the money that's come up quite a bit. And rooted in that is issues of sustainability, issues of how do we measure success, as you were talking about, Katie. That's one of the hardest things of doing grassroots missional community development stuff. Just share with us a little bit of why would you even head into this kind of work with the challenges that are brought upon you with that? So why do you do this? Why have you been willing to take these risks and go on this adventure with so much that's at stake? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Why do you do this?
Because I can't not do it. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking earlier, at least when I went to seminary and was about to start my ordained life, I think the statistic was, especially if you're a younger woman clergy person, if you make it 5 years, you're probably going to keep going. But a lot of people, 5 years of parish life, excuse my language, but getting the shit kicked out of you, you will probably leave. Like, a lot of people leave. That's the benchmark of how much they can take. And it was, a year in, 2 years in, starting to feel like enough of the frustrations, microaggressions, overt aggressions. We all kind of know the story of what it feels to be pressed in. And I needed to create the church that I needed to be a part of. And because of the money, I didn't leave my job. I just decided I was going to do this on the side. And I did it on the side for 2.5 years before I said, okay, it's really hard. It takes so much energy to do this work and to prop the institution up at the same time, which is so not what I'm called to, that I felt like, okay, I just have to, enough, 2.5 years of nudging of God to be just go all in. Just go all in. Interesting thing is, now that I am getting a little bit of money and a little bit of support from the diocese, I'm starting to wonder if it's worth it. The support and the money and all that comes along with that. So it is, I mean, I love that you posed all these questions that you don't have the answers to, because we don't have the answers, but in my experience at least, you know, I didn't go into this for the money in the first place. I do need to be able to pay my mortgage, so it's a constant, you know, balancing of responsibilities and knowing that if I am not doing what I feel called to and what I love, then why the heck am I doing this anyway? Just go do something else, right?
What she said, right? I mean, I love that I get put on these practical things because I'm like the least practical guy I know. You can laugh at that, it's okay. Can we just, I mean, but sometimes I have to get out of my head and sort of in reality, and can we just pause for a moment to think about like the total coup that this is, that any of us get paid to do this anyway, right? Well, yeah, that's a 10 of applause. I didn't see any seminarians clapping, right? Yeah. But if we could just get that idea out of our mind that we'll get paid to do this stuff, right? I mean, how would we be freed up by that if we didn't have that church pension fund carrot like dangling in front of us for 30 years? Because that's how they keep people engaged who don't feel called to this work anymore, right? Yeah. I got to do this because I got to retire. Yeah. Right. Air mic drop.
I believe that I'm 15 years in church pension now, and it's sort of like,
oh, you're vested, baby. Yeah.
If I drop out now.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot you had that. You can finish your thought.
Oh, yeah. Who knows? But right. I mean, and as I'm aware, whose voice is not at the table, right? I'm always thinking about that. I think you guys got that from the video there. I'm also aware whose ears aren't at this table, right? I mean, here we are in a seminary chapel, right? Any seminary professors here? Right. Got it. Right? Because we go to seminary and we're formed to like expect that we're going to get paid for this because we're surrounded by all these, and if the lightning bolt comes, it's been fun, right? Because we're surrounded by all these rich priests, right? The model of like vacation home and like boats and stuff like that. That is totally not, I mean, did the disciples retire to Mediterranean seaside resorts? That was not part of the plan, right? I'll shut up now. Say something, Daniel. Oh, we're good.
No, don't give it to him.
Don't encourage that.
We'll be here all day.
So I do what I do because I was invited to do it. Yeah. And so 21 years ago, my then boyfriend, after 3 months, invited me to go to church, St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And he invited, and I said yes. I've always been a churchgoer, and now look at me, here I am. So it's his fault, and it was a great thing. So the priest of that church, after about 4 years, and I did everything. I didn't want to do Sunday school, so of course that's the first thing I was invited to do. I taught Sunday school from the tiniest to the oldest, and that was wonderful. I did that for about 8 years. Then I was volunteered to be a lay youth minister leader, and I did that. And I was invited to lead healing ministry, and I did that. And then one day Titus invited Parker and me into his office and said, "Daniel, have you ever thought about being a priest?" And I said, "Of course," when I was 7. 2 weeks later, I was in his office. So my ministry is about inviting people to just taste, see, to whatever it is. I don't have a building. We don't have a building. We worship in 2 different places, at 10 o'clock in the morning here, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon there. We are being promised to get land. So we have this piece of land that sort of sits there that's not really ours yet. But the incredible thing is that we are using all the resources that God is giving us to do the work of the church. Now, a criticism. We've heard a lot of criticism because a lot of us are doing the work in the community. I am a vicar of St. Gabriel's. Now let's talk theology. We are a mission church of the Diocese of Virginia. That word has been so misused. Why are we a mission church? Because we have no money. We depend financially. The vicar is the church of a mission church that needs money. Has nothing to do with missionary work, missional work, the work that we do, nothing at all. It only has to do with the fact that we are financially dependent and not self-sustainable. We need to mess with that theology. We need to turn it on its head because it's wrong. We're doing the work.
Yeah.
We're doing the work. We're doing the missionary work of the church. And yes, we're underpaid, and yes, we don't have financial resources, but we have a lot of stories. We have a lot of stories. I consider myself, I was asked when I was first came into the first ministry that I started, starting a Hispanic ministry in an established Episcopal church, by one of the community leaders that said, I hope that you're not like the other priests in the community who are priests of their four walls. That has never left my soul. I am not a priest of my four walls, and I'm proud of it. If you want to find me, I have a cell phone, ring it. I do wear my uniform every day. I'm not wearing it today because it's Saturday and I'm going to go write sermons after this. But I am wearing St. Gabriel's Episcopal Church's motto. I believe that we have to be very present, and in the community in which I serve, a collar does make a difference. And I do so much church just by wearing it. It's amazing. And so we're the priests in the communities that we serve by God's grace.
I wanted to ask a question along that lines of being priests in the community. And you talked about as well about drawing other people in. You were invited, and so you see as part of your task inviting other people in. We were talking a little bit about that last night, Bob. But Glenna as well, you've talked a lot about community organizing, that idea about being in and understanding a community. That's not necessarily a given for all clergy or Christian leadership. How did you learn that skill, and why ought more Christian leaders embrace that way of being a leader? You want to say something about that, Glenna, for us?
Sure. I would offer first that I came to the church because it's a justice issue for me. In my household, my father would ask, literally, I was 6 years old, what did you do for your community today? I don't know. I went to school. What did you do for your community today? That happened every night at our dinner table when we were eating together. My father emphasized you having a roof over your head, having dinner in this house is a privilege. Me going to work to earn money, to put dinner on this table is a privilege. You are responsible to take that privilege and help other people receive it. They too need the opportunity to have dinner, to have a roof over their head, to have clothes, and to be educated like you are. I was clear about that. So I found an opportunity, a profession that would allow me to do that. What I do is a justice issue, and I feel like it's firmly rooted in my faith. Isaiah 58:12, you are called to be repairers of the breach, restorers of the streets to live in. But I have to listen to what people need. I don't want to, but one of the universals of organizing is not do for others what they can do for themselves. We all have power. The problem is we feel powerless, which then leads to hopelessness. But what people, I think, want is to be listened to. More people came to my congregation because I listened to them, not because I said, hey, I got this great church up there on the corner. People didn't even know the church was there. Like, they walked past it all the time. They didn't even know it was there. But when I said, hey, if you want to come in, I'd love to talk to you about what's going on in the neighborhood here. I'd love to talk about what your greatest desire is. I'd love to help you figure out how you can meet your greatest need. Can we do that together? That put butts in the pews, sometimes. Oh, and you asked me why I don't think other leaders do that? Because it's hard to listen. A lot of us feel like we have the information necessary. We understand what God wants from us, and so what we need to do is help you understand what God wants from us. And so the more I talk to you about what God wants from us, the more you'll want to participate. And really, it's just about not talking and listening. And leaders have a hard time with that.
That is it, Glenn. I mean, you just said it right. That is totally it. Because the church, I mean, there's this total like monopoly. We feel like we have this monopoly on good and God, and we're going to go and like be amazing to people. When instead, like what I'm finding is that, I'm journeying with the people Jesus has entrusted the gospel with, and I'm learning way more. But can I tell one story? I'm a storyteller. Can I tell? It'll be quick. But there's this fella. He regular worshiper. And he lives under a bridge, over concrete, not over water, but lives under a bridge. And he just sort of fell off the face of the earth there, and we didn't see him for like 6 weeks. Totally regular guy, experiencing homelessness. And when he finally comes back, I mean, he's all banged up, cut up and everything like that. And I said, we're talking at the Peace, and I said, hey, man, how you been doing? And he said, well, I've been in the hospital, right? Oh, man. Okay, well, all right, this is a story. What is it? And this is during the Peace, right? In the middle of our service. And he says, 2 guys threw me off my bridge and stole all my stuff, right? And man, that's tough. That's right. That's tough. And then he says, and the 2 guys that did it are here tonight in worship, right? And so I get Papa Bear mode, like, okay, who are they? And he says, I'm not going to tell you who they are, right? Because you might ask them to leave. And they need Jesus as much as I do. How do you, right? Like, I got lots of degrees. I tend to collect these things. Like, I didn't learn that anyplace, right? This guy lives his faith every day. He knows where his next meal is coming from, right? I made the mistake of saying that one time. He knows. It's coming from God, the same place his last meal came from, right? So we think we've got it to like go out there and give it to people. I think. I'm on video here, so. Hi, George. That's my bishop. Under orders, right? That's what ordination means? Okay, good. We've got to learn it from these folks who are living it. Yeah, and it's a learned thing. It's not, as we have made, this was Richard Rohr's daily email this morning. We have made the church such about ideas that we don't have to own any of it. We can just think the right stuff. I can give you a great lecture on the Oxford movement, right? That you all would love. That's totally disconnected from my experience, right?
And the thing is, with community organizing, we use universals, and there's lots of universals, but at the root of it, everything we do starts with an individual meeting. It starts with relationship. We heard in one parish, they did individual meetings internally before they started the external individual meetings. People on the vestry were related, and they didn't realize that they were related. The individual meeting, it's not like, well, what is it that you can do and what program can you start? But this is just about what brought you to this place. How do you understand God in your life? How do you live out your faith in the world? What motivates you to be the person who you are? And that tells us so much about the people that we're sitting next to. And these are not questions that we ask on a regular basis. A relational church is a full church. However you define church, I don't necessarily mean 4 walls, people gathered. When you're in relationship, then you have the capacity to see God in the other.
We were talking earlier about what Glenna does, community organizing. I've never read a book on community organizing, and I've always done it. What we do is not willy-nilly. We don't just do it. We think about it, we strategize, we plan, we talk to a lot of people. At the heart of community organizing is knowing the landscape in which you are at and the people who are in it, And yes, that means you have to sit down with them at their coffee table and drink coffee, whether you drink coffee or not. You have to be there con la gente, with the people. I'm an engineer by training, and so before I was a priest, I worked for startup companies. So one would say that it was in my DNA, sort of, to be that risk taker. And so what I would invite folks out there, wherever you are in your communities, is you don't have to be an engineer that worked in startup companies. You don't have to think of yourself as a church planter, but you do have to think of yourself as a holy person that wants to make a difference with the people of God by being with the people of God. And so one of the things that I admire, for example, of Laundry Love, which I'd love to have in my community, I'd love that to be my church, actually. I'd love to own a laundromat as the mission center in Leesburg. Oof. That'd be great. People think I'm crazy about that, but that's okay. Holy crazy. But it is in places like that that your story of Jesus is so revealed. You know, you made me cry. It's like, wow, powerful.
I got
Don't
more.
you dare throw that person out of the house of God, you know? Isaiah 56:7, we are a house for all people, a house of prayer for all people, and that is one of my mottos. And yes, community organizing principles are important. I've attended many seminars and conferences because we do have to learn the basics, but we also have to do the basics. And that has to be our religion as well.
How much time do we have left, guys? As much as you need. Might have some more room for stories. So let's do this. Let's make this announcement that if you have a question that you would like to ask of these folks while we have them here, whether you're online or here, tweet out your question and use hashtag Missional Voices, and we'll watch those and try to get some of those at the end of this, towards the end of this conversation. So we kind of started off talking about some of those points of pain and some of the challenges, and that's been kind of a theme. One of the things, Katie, that you mentioned in your talk was how troubling some of the metrics are, or how challenging they present themselves to be. Ideal world, what would you measure? What would you hope people would be measuring about the work that you do, and that we would hope others go out from here and do after this weekend?
That's a great question. I mean, I said that my hope is that the sort of the metric of measure would be more by the stories that we're able to tell, and not just that we have the confidence to present those as success stories, but that the established church has sort of the wisdom to receive them. I think for me at the Abbey, maybe I almost go back to the concept of story, and I measure my own success by how I am able to, how we as a community are able to both play a part and also to articulate the story of Jesus and salvation, and sometimes that is. I have walked in on spontaneous conversations between my baristas and customers about God is Not Dead, Part 2, and about, not about the Oxford movement, but about, like Anglican.
You said Rosary Society.
We actually had a question about that. What the heck is a Rosary Society?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, good.
So how are we living into both proclaiming by action, but also by word, but that story of salvation?
Stories. What else?
Story. Well, that guy that invited me to church 21 years ago is my husband, and Parker asks me almost every day, so how much of your agenda did you get today, and then how much of God's agenda did you get today? Because it's I talk about my agenda and God's agenda, and my agenda is I'm a list person, right? And I go in with my list of things that need to be done this week, and I used to come out at the end of the day, which he had to listen to, I didn't get anything done. And he's like, what? What do you mean you didn't get, you were there like 14 hours. So what did you do? And we coined God's agenda. So it's successful in his ears when God trumps me, right? God's agenda trumps my agenda. And so that's one of the measurables. Another measurable for me is a story. You know, every Monday night in my office, which is housed in St. James Episcopal Church, our mother church, every Monday night at 6, one of my Latina parishioners is teaching another parishioner how to read and write. And it's like, the story there is she's taken it upon herself to be an evangelist and a teacher, literally. And so we learned through community organizing that there's a high percentage of illiterate, undocumented immigrants in our community. They're mostly coming now from El Salvador and southern part of Mexico. And she's a dreamer mom from the Dreamers Act movement. And she said, I'm an educated woman, although I'm undocumented. I'm going to use my skills and talents in this church. Who cares about butts in the pews after that story? It's like, God bless you. You know, and so the other measurable in our congregation is that we're authentically inclusive. What does that mean? Everyone says welcome. The Episcopal Church welcomes you. Yeah, right, sometimes. But we call ourselves authentically inclusive, and for that, you know, at our perfectly imperfect altar, we're a traditionally untraditional church. You know, we have children that are autistic and they serve on the altar. And yes, sometimes their, you know, bulletin gets flown into the air because that's what they need to do, and that's okay, you know. And we have people that, you know, have reading disabilities and learning disabilities, and they're readers, you know. And yes, the children, as in many churches, are ushers and, you know, acolytes and all of that. We have brown and white and biracial and Asian. We're really mixed. And in this part of Virginia where we're at, that's not a standard. So we're an oasis church of inclusion. And I think more of us need to be. And that's part of God's agenda. I just showed up and I'm there. Thanks be to God.
So much of what I hear coming out of your stories are the importance of relationships, of actually, like you said, listening to people, learning their stories, seeing Jesus at work through their stories, etc. And it makes me think that a generation before this that was so enamored with the megachurch, kind of the growing church and those metrics, I'm wondering if what is maybe more sustainable, maybe the metric is not so much more big, but lots of small. Does that resonate with you and your experience? Does that seem like where we're headed to a degree at least?
Absolutely. I was thinking one of the very interesting things that I've noticed in the last year of the Abbey is that so many of our customers, but also the people that are coming to worship, especially the younger people and involved in our Bible studies, are involved. I mean, I would say 75% are in a helping profession. They are social workers and therapists and fundraisers, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we've realized is it is not the Abbey's job to give people therapy or even to sort of like community organize in the way that, you know, that some of the folks up here are doing, or to really address poverty in our neighborhood, because our customers are doing that. What we can do is sort of give them the stamina and the spiritual language and the story of salvation where they won't get burnt out. And so I think in those little ways, you know, it's sort of this one person at a time, but they go out and, you know, make a big tidal pool in whatever they are, whatever it is that they are doing. So we're really sort of a hub, but pushing these other people out to do the work that God has given them to do.
Which is what the church, four walls, should be doing.
Yeah.
Like, for those who are ordained, the vows call us to equip the saints to do the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not supposed to build, like, reinvent the wheel and have everything in-house?
No.
I thought that's what we were supposed to do.
No. No.
No?
We are supposed to, particularly in the urban context, which is where I'm located, we want the church, the walls on Sunday morning, maybe is to offer substance and remind folks why they're doing this hard work and to comfort, because they have hard stories when they come in, and fortify them to go back out into the world. Give them the equipment that they need to go out and be the hands and feet of God in Christ in the world. If we keep them inside, doing programs inside, that may not fulfill the vows that those of us who are ordained undertook. We may not be living into that as fully as we could be.
Which is, in a certain respect, is a bit reassuring, because I think for a lot of folks, there's this sense that I need to be something as a professional Christian leader. I need to be something that I'm not. And you're saying, like, no, stick to your wheelhouse. Stick to what you know, what you have trained to do best, and empower everybody else to go and be what they can do best for God. Is that what I hear you saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. If you're a fisherman, cast your net on the other side and catch more fish.
Yeah.
Jesus didn't go out fishing in that way. He told Peter, cast your net. So, sometimes we just need instruction, and we are the leaders. We've been given the tools to give the instruction to help people go out and cast their nets.
I want to respond to what you asked about sort of the measurables, numbers. 20% of Leesburg, where I'm at, is Latino. And so there's a number attached to that. Hispanic ministries, the Hispanic Latino ministries in the Episcopal Church and in this country now is incredibly vibrant, powerful, big. There are people here participating from San Mateo in the crowd, right? These are folks that are in a Latino congregation in Houston, and it started small and started with however many people that priest started with, and now it's San Mateo. Everyone knows about San Mateo. 8 miles from here, not even, is La Iglesia de Santa Maria, and Santa Maria has over 800 to 1,000 worshipers on a Sunday. Now, what I tell my English-speaking congregants, because what happens many times in bilingual congregations is the English speakers at some point sort of get jealous of the fact that they're the smaller demographic in the church. English speakers have so many options. Within 10-mile radius of my office, or where we worship at the Belmont Ridge Middle School, there's every denomination, Christian and otherwise, that you could think of, because it's a bedroom community of Washington, D.C. For Latinos, there are not very many options. There's one Roman Catholic church in the second most conservative archdiocese in the United States, which does mean exclusion. There's a handful of Pentecostal, Baptist, non-denominational Latino congregations, but the choices are so few. So when you provide an oasis of authentic inclusion, and you hear people's stories, and you sit at their tables, and the people that you are with continue to do that, so it multiplies in a community organizing way. Word of mouth, people find out, and so I'll use a ASA. Last year, Easter service in the community center, in the Spanish service, there were 6 people. This year at St. James, at the Easter service, there were over 80. And I'm sitting there and go, how did this happen? I don't know. But the word, not my word, God's word, just goes out, and people are in need. So they flock, they come, they have a cup of coffee, they chill, and they are welcome, and they know it.
Y'all know about Spiral? Can I jump in here?
Go for
yeah.
it.
No,
Don't give him the mic.
Don't give me that. Y'all know about spiral dynamics, right? Transcend and include. Jane and I were having this conversation yesterday. She's like, that's my mantra. I love it. Transcend and include. And so, I'm always trying to get that bird's eye, that 20,000 foot sort of view of transcend and include. And I've been working with this, and so if it doesn't work out, it's okay. But I've been working with this, who is not a child of God, right? Okay, good, that's our numbers, right? So maybe we could just quit counting. Maybe we could just quit counting. Whatever you're counting, just stop counting it. Like, I mean, is that the thing you could set a match to that would like light this fuse that would cause this explosion? That's the fuse image is the image I've got for this whole thing. Because, I mean, what is this thing behind me, right? This is the participatory
Altar.
part. An altar, some people call it an altar, right? I've never been called personally to like rend some small animal and like drip the blood out on it or anything like that. So I really don't know what I'm doing calling myself a priest, right? But I mean, are we about like waving our hands over this bread and like getting holy in it? Or are we about pointing to the greater reality, the greater possibility that this bread is holy because all bread is holy, right? And when God created the universe, however many years ago that happened, more than 5,000, right? Or more than 6, right? Orders of magnitude more, right? There's this hydrogen mass and there's this ball of rock spinning around it forever, right? I mean, and if we can measure time, right, most of it is that. And then some of that started to break down, and then there was like water. Like, how does that happen? Water. And then that thing is turning itself and going around this hydrogen mass. And some of that rock starts to break down and become soil, right? And then something in that water decides like, oh, there's a hydrogen mass. I can use that to become energy, right? Photosynthesis. I paid attention in biology class, right? And then something gets that out of the water so that it lands on that part of that rock that started to break down and become soil. And then like the sun shines, the rain falls, the wind blows. The soil has these nutrients in it, and all of that happens. And now the green blade rises, right? Yeah, there's wheat. This is the universe here, right? That God created and called good. Yeah. And human beings eventually figured out how to interact with that and scythe that wheat and grind that grain to make bread and put, oh yeah, by the way, I'm sorry, I don't sit down much, and put, oh yeah, by the way,
I was going to say,
put, oh yeah, by the way, leaven in the dough, right? There is your biblical image, right? Leaven in the dough, and we interact with this, with crickets, really? I thought I was better than that. Dang, this is a tough crowd here. And human beings interact with this goodness and this godliness and make bread. And Jesus comes along and says, this bread is holy because all bread is holy. What bread in this world is not communion bread already? Are we waving our hands to get people to say amen to make this communion? Or are we like, hey, this is all communion, right? And so it's no wonder, this is my line I've been using recently, it's no wonder that when Mary encounters Jesus in the garden, right, after the risen Christ, yeah, she thinks he's a gardener, tending that soil.
Mic drop.
so I love that, Bob.
Quick counting.
Did we all just know we were going to get a history of the
refrain of that,
cosmos on a panel about missional church? That was amazing. Sorry.
Yeah, they put me on the practical panel. That sounds about right. Yeah.
There is, so I'll just use our organizing universals. Bob has just described the world as it should be. We live in the world as it is. The reality is that we do have measurables. And measurables are really important because the bishop and you've got to fill out your procure report by May whatever date or you don't get what you need, and those are important things. And they ask you your ASA and your Easter numbers and your pledging units. That's important if you live within the structure. That is the world as it is. How do we help get to the world as it should be? And what is our role in that? We really should be about helping people articulate the story, the good news of God in Christ. That is what is in the Gospels. Go out and proclaim the good news, but so many people don't know how to do that. How do we get them there so that that becomes the measurable? And more of us need to be out articulating our faith to as many people as we can in languages that they understand. Vernacular, that's in the vernacular.
So our end around, and I appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate you saying that. We have an ASA of 0, right? We have an ASA of 0, right?
No Sunday attendance.
We don't worship on Sunday, right?
Right.
Yeah. There it is, right? Yeah. Right. Right.
And the thing is, to be a church, according to our canons, you have to have the principal service on Sunday.
Right. So we are a preaching station, and we got Bob Pritchard, who knew what it was. Totally. So that's the beauty of seminary.
Hack the cannons,
We got
right?
Bob
Hack the
Pritchard to tell us
cannons.
what it is. But in what way? Because I hear failure as a thing. We can't be afraid to fail, and I'm just sort of wondering, we as resurrection people, what in the world does failure have to do with our story? Empty tomb. We are resurrection people. What are we afraid of? Let's just try this. And I feel like part of what is holding us back. I was in the presence of a panel of bishops recently, and one of them just flat out said, and he's a new bishop, so they'll work this out of him. But the problem with the Episcopal Church is the Episcopal Church. We are in our own way. We got the best. I'll use crass marketing terms. We got the best product and the worst marketing.
It's really hard to sell
Right?
Stick around for 6 months, though. Isn't that what Christian?
Yeah, right. Stick around.
Stick around for 6 months. Yeah.
And the institution, and the problem is, which is why I think what Sarah's doing and Jason and Jennifer or Jessica? Jennifer is creative, and it's not necessarily my type of worship, but for folks who are running away from the institution, right now I'm challenging people to vote. And for me, when I turned 18, I wanted to vote. I wanted to be part of that system because so many people fought for the right for me to vote. I wanted to do it. But that's not where folks are between the ages of 18 and 35, 38 right now. The concept of institution is it's yucky. And so we've got to look at how can we share our resource without relying on the institution so heavily? How can we make church viable again without being institutional church? Does that make sense?
Well, I think part of the institution, the institution has been painful for a lot of people, because the institution gets put first rather than the actual individual people or the community of people. And people feel that, they experience that, they don't want to be a part of that. And what, you were asking us what of our joys in this ministry. A lot of things. I love that there are so many different things going on. People are experimenting and trying so many different ways of being church. And I was saying there is no new model. There's not somebody's going to figure out and be like, oh, we all need to do laundry. No, we all don't need to do laundry, but that's one way to do it. We all don't need to do dinner church, but that is one way to do it. And there's reason behind it. There's good theology. There's good practice. But it's not like I kind of get the sense sometimes that people are waiting for one of us to figure it out and be like, oh, well, I'll just do that now. And that'll be how we survive. And part of what I love about this is that I feel like at the heart, we're all trying to just return to our true identity. What does it really mean to be a Christian and follow Jesus in this world? And that's not going to look the same for all of us, and it's not supposed to. And what does it mean for us to be church? What does it mean for us to be priests? And the fact that we're trying to do a new thing while keeping one foot in the institution. In some ways, I think it would be easier for us all to just go rogue and do our own thing. But the point is to stay in relationship and stay connected to the wider tradition. So it's this how do you speak both languages? How do you authentically try and do both things at the same time? So actually, I was speaking with Bishop Chilton the other day, and she was saying, I don't think it's original to her, but instead of ASA, it's AWE. It's average weekly impact. AWI, average weekly impact. So how do you measure, how do you measure relationship? How do you measure transformation? How do you measure touches? Well, when you see it, you can point to it. Right? That's our job, is to see, recognize the holy and point to it and say, hey, that's holy. So an example would be, we do for the Slate Project, our online weekly gathering is a Thursday night tweet chat. So for an hour from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., we have church online. So when somebody says something like, "This was an amazing conversation, I really found Jesus here," we take a screenshot of it and keep it in a folder. So when our bishops are like, "So what are you doing and how are people impacting?" Well, here's some screenshots of what people have said. Or here's a video of what some people have said. So, I worry about I don't want people to think, oh, if I just do story or if I just do community organizing, those are not idols that you should be taking out of here, but they're tools for a different way of living this out. So there are so many different ways to tell stories. But at the heart of story is when you connect to, oh, that's when somebody encountered Jesus. That's when someone's life was changed. So that's why it's important to talk about it.
I love what you said at the beginning, where you said that you wanted to, something like, I want to build a church that I would want to be a part of. And it was so refreshing, because I came to this tradition not because of organs or choirs or vestments, but because of this rich, beautiful liturgy. And I wanted to be a part of a church that had this much broader and deeper sense of the gospel, and that's so refreshing, to this idea that we can do that, both of those things, that we can be a part of this beautiful tradition, but help create a space for the kind of church that we want to be a part of. You all are creators. You're people that have taken risks. That you're cultivators. You're organizers. You've done the work of trying to design and create church that you would want to be a part of. What are you most proud of in the work? Brag, please, a little bit. What are you most proud of in the work that you've done and that you helped create?
Before I answer that, I do want to say that all of us and people like us are, the institution considers us entrepreneurs, doing new expressions of church. There's nothing new about anything that we do. Nothing new. We are copying Jesus' model and that of the disciples. And so there's nothing new about missional work, nothing. So we're just continuing to do it. So one of the proud moments I could say about the ministry that I have is, there's in two of the churches that I've been at, and in instances with women that have been denied the Eucharist. Presently, 3 weeks ago, a woman came to church, and one of my laypersons, this is in the Spanish language service, so one of my English language lay leaders was preaching, and I was translating, and his message touched this woman who had only come twice to San Gabriel, and she came to the altar rail, and she was crying through the whole service, and I'm like, cool, we could replace where people feel vulnerable. Then at the end of the service, she turned to Peter, who knows no Spanish, but is one of our musicians, he plays the flute, and told him in Spanish how transformed she felt by the invitation, and that she came to the altar rail for the first time in 22 years. I'm proud of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to go after that. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
That was his mic drop on you.
That's right. Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. I love it. I think that's part of it, is that, that we're part of doing something that, as you say, I'm not special, right? Southside Abbey is not a special community. And this will be a little tough because I've announced recently that the end of the summer I'll be leaving Southside Abbey. So if you feel called to a missional community, call Pat Grace, candidate of the Ordinary, the Diocese of East Tennessee, and talk to her about Southside Abbey. And we probably won't pay you anything, but it's cool, maybe a little. But so I'm doing a lot of this reflecting and sort of thinking back, and I just think the thing I'm most proud of is this team of people who came around this idea, and as you put it, we're all in. That they're not, to borrow a phrase of Rob Bell's, they're not playing with borrowed money, right? It's their own stuff. They're in. And so that's why I have faith that the community will continue even after I move on too. I'm doing a fellowship year, so if you're doing innovative stuff and want me to come see it, that's the whole idea. So talk to me about that also. But yeah, I'd say the team. And then also, good grief, being a part of this. I mean, here are my heroes, right? Trying to make eye contact with you all, right? I mean, here are my heroes, yeah. So to be numbered among them is pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
It's not something I really can take any credit for, but I can be proud of it. And it was grace and a conscious decision not to do this alone. So from the very beginning, I mean, I felt this longing to start something new. I shared it with a friend who happened to be a Presbyterian pastor. We shared that longing with a Lutheran minister who had been charged to create a new community, and we said, why don't we do this together? It'll be so much more fun. And I think you need that, it doesn't have to be 3 pastors, but you need a community of people to pray with, to discern with, to walk through this with, because, I mean, I really don't think you can do it alone. People say, like, oh, this is such an isolating thing. I have not experienced that because I have not done this alone. I don't know how you could do this alone. I mean, I'm sure nobody actually really does, because you have to get a team of people. You need 2 or 3 with you. It's funny, I love traditional church. I love that. But what I needed was it was easier for me to go to a new place and say, this is how I want to be in relationship with you all. That's actually still the hardest work. It's like, how are we going to be together and how are we going to love each other? We stepped out of the structure to create our new structure, but that is still like the heart of the work, and it's still just as hard and just as meaningful and like the whole point of it. But I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that we recognized from the beginning that this was something that needed to be co-created, that it needed to not come from any one of us, but from all of us. And that as soon as possible, we needed to invite more people into that circle so that it was actually a community and a communion, and not just like an awesome leader with a great idea. I mean, I'm hoping those days are going away, because that's not what this is about.
Jason, you were asking something earlier about sort of how did you work up the courage or ability to like go out into the community. And I am a natural introvert, like very, very introverted. And so
That must be
like,
terrible.
The phrase, I know. The phrase like community organizing or like going out into the community, just like, I hate coffee hour. Like, I'm not going to go do it.
And you own a coffee shop.
She runs a coffee shop.
Yes. So there's like my
God has a sense of humor.
My proudest moment, in a way, is that I mean, I've come to think like over the last couple of years that like one of the worst things to happen to the priesthood has been like the office. And I wish I had an office, actually, but
Yeah.
but I don't, and it forces me to it forces me to walk around in circles trying to come up with a sermon just out on the sidewalks. In Avondale, or to be behind like the coffee counter and meeting people and having good conversations with people and having hard conversations with people. And one of my proud moments that sort of symbolizes that was a couple of weeks ago. My bishop, who had not visited the Abbey in probably 4 months, his office is just down the street, but he came and he did purple out. We call it purple hours. Like, you can just come and like bring your agenda to the bishop and he'll listen. So he was just sort of sitting there, and at the bar, as I was running the cash register, and we had this moment of really busy traffic, and I knew like 20 people in a row that came into the Abbey. Some of them because they worship with us, some from other Episcopal churches, and some just because like they're customers that are regulars whose names I've gotten to know. So as an introvert, and having my bishop right there, was one of the stories I didn't have to tell because he got to witness it.
I too am an introvert. And hey, I don't go to coffee hour. If I'm in a parish, if I'm doing a parish Sunday, I find busy work to do while coffee hour is happening. I mean, you know, if you're looking in your prayer book, people think you're praying or something. But the thing about community organizing is that you have to go out into the community and talk to people. Luckily, though, I listen, so I don't actually have to.
I appreciated that.
So what I would say, I have a couple of proud moments. I mean, I've been doing this for some time. I think I'm most thankful that God is still molding me. God has. The first 8 years of my ministry were so not awesome. But there was so much work happening, and so much discerning, and so much self-reflection, and so much of God saying, okay, now let's try a little bit of this, and let's put a little bit of this in. And then God said, now go to Baltimore. And I looked at a map, and I said, where, God, is Baltimore? Is that a city? Is there a coffee shop? How far is the airport? I came to Baltimore, and I got to tell you, that was not on my list of places to live. After I left New York, because I went to seminary in New York, I had never, ever, ever, ever planned on coming back to the Northeast area because snow is uncomfortable. But God has continued to work with me, and I have continued to listen to God, and I think I'm really proud of that. That I have continued to allow God to lead me, and me being willing to follow and take the risk that God has placed in front of me. And what that has yielded has been, I don't really even have the words for all of the grace that I've been able to be part of. I had a woman who came to me within the context of community and said, I would like to transition, and I want to do that in the community. And I was serving a predominantly African-American octogenarian community, and they're having a conversation with them about transgender, transitioning, sexuality. I mean, this was like, they were like, I don't stop. Why is this happening in church? Well, because we're community. I had a woman, she sent me a email the other day, and she said, I'd like to apply for this position. I know I'm not qualified, and it's a risk that I want to take because you talked about taking risks, and I want to do it. And the only reason I'm part of a church, and she's not part of my church, she's part of a church, is because you showed me what God's love looks like. And I baptized her. And she said, I want to take that risk because I know that God loves me. And it wasn't that clear, but you get the picture. There was some man on the street, and I was out walking, and he never, ever, ever, ever crossed the street to come to the church sidewalk. So he called me to his side of the street, and he said, hey, they call me, what do they call me? Mother Glenna. Hey, Mother Glenna. Hey, man, what's up? He's like, hey, do you know my name? And I said, no, you've never told me your name. Because he's a big man, and he told me to call him Biggie or something. I was like, no, that's not cool. So he said, no, you're right, I never told you my name because I didn't trust you. But now you've been here a bit, and I see that you're okay. So my name is Curtis. And he said, we just did church. And he walked off. those are my moments.
I was gonna say, I said my team, and I think what I'm most proud of about my team is, it's not my team. Sorry, that's the wrong way. The team of Southside Abbey is. So our first year, we were like poster child for Episcopal Church plants, right? We had the coveted young family demographic. Like, I don't actually know what's so great about them, but someone can explain that to me in writing. I'd love it, because they're too busy, right, to do anything, you know, and they don't have any money because it's all on the kids, right? But that's what we're going after. Fine. But then trust and word spread among the poor, and they started showing up, right? Mm-hmm. And what did those dazzling young urbanites do? They were gone. I mean, they hit the road, Jack. You know, we did the one-on-ones. You know, hey, why'd you leave, right? And you know, well, we didn't feel that we were safe. You know, and Jesus doesn't actually promise us that, right? I read the book, right? He promises to be with us, not safety. Pretty clear about that. And so the community, this team that I serve, said, okay, we got a choice here. We can be faithful in response to whom the Holy Spirit has brought us, the poor, right? Or we can tell them to leave and have the young families, right? And they were faithful, and they said, you know what? I think we're called to be with the poor. This is an expression. In many ways, unanswered question of Southside Abbey is, can there be an Episcopal church of, by, for, and with the poor, the really poor? And it remains unanswered. So I mean, if I go on this fellowship year and somebody else takes the helm and it goes a completely different direction, or into the ground, we'll have our answer, right? And so it will have been worth the money we spent to find out that no, the Episcopal Church can't have a church that's of, by, for, and with the poor. Got it. I don't think that's going to happen, right? I'm a hopeful kind of guy. But I heard this recently, and Duncan Gray shared this, but it was, he's a retired bishop, who they should probably they should give voice, or they should give vote, right, in the House of Bishops and take away their voice. But hey, I'm going to preach in the middle in there. But he told this one. It's a good story. But there's we won't say a recent graduate of VTS who said, a pretty prominent preacher, who said that the work that goes on in the sermons of most Episcopal clergy, clerics, is akin to talking about medicine to a room full of sick people, right? And that guy's name was Phillips Brooks. Right? This is not new stuff, right? We've been called to be faithful to Jesus for a long time. And it's okay. We can honor what has come before, right? But we can do it. I love that. Just do it. Yeah, we can do it. And so that's what I'm proud of my team for. They said yes to the group that the Holy Spirit brought them. And now those walls are, they're dissolving. The us and them stuff is going away. And what we found, actually, is there are new young families who are a part of our community because we are who we are, rather than stuck around in spite of it. Right. And that's the group I want to be working with. Yeah.
And if I could say one thing that I want everybody to hear, I am charged to go out and make disciples, not to go out and make Episcopalians.
Yeah, there it is.
So there are some colleagues in the Episcopal Church that are fabulous, but if some of them are not as fabulous as you would like them to be, dust the dust off your feet and keep moving. Because there are some Presbyterians, and I'm learning some older Baptists, and some Unitarians, and some Lutherans, of those who are atheists, Methodists, and Lutherans, Catholics, and some awesome, really Buddhist people that really just Muslims want to make disciples. They want to articulate their relationship with God, and I want to hear it.
Also, along those lines, in a different perspective, so St. Gabriel San Gabriel is a recipient of a Mission Enterprise Zone grant. Thanks be to God. It's been very helpful to, to boost us up and keep on having a vision of hope without having to think about, will we able to, pay the school, or some of the salaries of the people that we pay, like child care providers and all that stuff. Of course, my salary. But the incredible thing that I see happening is because of Mission Enterprise Zone, because of a missional soul opportunity, we are creating disciples, not Episcopalians, but we are also seeing that it's the people, la gente, el pueblo, that don't have a home that are becoming the church. I was asked recently, how many Episcopalians, if you are part of the ministry of San Gabriel, none of them are. They're not members of the club. They're inquiring. They're exploring. They're trying to figure us out. What a great thing. So our mission site is allowing people to explore. I often say, I don't care what church you go to. Church is a place of community. If this is a place where you feel welcome and held, great. If you want to be baptized here, be married here, have your quinceañera here, have your first communion here, and go somewhere else, great. Do it. So the community of San Gabriel, when you look at, all of the diversity of what people like, oh, I'm Jehovah's Witness, and I'm evangelical, and I'm Roman Catholic. No one says that they're Episcopalian. But we're there. We're there.
I want to thank all of you, not just for being a part of this conversation, but for the work that you do. The Episcopal Church needs you guys, and it's an honor to be up here with you and to let other people hear about what you're passionate about, to hear your story, and to just know you better in the church. So can you thank our friends for being here today?